Meeting to order. You ready to go? Welcome. Welcome, my Optimist Club friends. I'm Chuck Korsenborn, president of the Optimist Club of Covington. We meet every Wednesday at 12 noon at Pee Wee's Place at 2325 Anderson Road, Crescent Springs. For our TBNK viewers, today is 18 September 2024. Today's presentation is videoed and rebroadcast on Spectrum Channel 203, Alta Fiber, Channel 815, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Rebroadcast on TBNK Telecommunications Broadcast of Northern Kentucky. Stay connected with TBNK to go, on demand, TBNK, FB, and Optimist FB. James Borlaug, program director, editor, cameraman, makes our rebroadcast of this Optimist program possible. We'll open with a prayer.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy
name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
And Lord, watch over each of us in all of our dealings throughout the day, remembering it's the Holy Spirit's job to convict, it's God's job to judge, it's our job to love. And love we do. Red, yellow, brown, black, and white, we're all precious in Jesus' sight. Amen, and thank you for our wonderful guest today, Gabrielle Summe, who works hard every single day of life. Amen.
Amen.
Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind.
To talk health, happiness, and prosperity for every person you meet. To make all of your friends feel that there is something in them. To look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true. To think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. Be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own, to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile, to give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others, to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. Join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We have a presentation by our county attorney, Gabrielle Summe. Gabrielle's a lifelong resident of Kenton County. Gabrielle made history in 2010 when she was elected the first female Kenton County clerk. Since becoming the Kenton County clerk, she has preserved the county records by digitalizing. Gabrielle is a graduate of Notre Dame Academy, Salmon P. Chase College of Law, and we're honored to have Gabrielle Summe address her Optimist members. It is my pleasure to introduce Gabrielle Summe, Kenton County Clerk. I would like to add personally that I have known Gabrielle since she was born, literally. She is one of the most excellent clerks that we have had. I have been in this office for 26 years, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with her. Gabrielle.
Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate all that.
Thank you.
All the stories I could tell about hanging out at Chuck's place. It was my dad's favorite place to go. Again, I'm Gabrielle Summe. I'm your Kenton County Clerk, and even if you're not a Kenton County resident, a lot of what I'm going to tell you pertains to other counties. So the fact that this is going to be broadcast is very helpful because when we talk about elections, a lot of the dates aren't Kenton County specific. They really pertain to throughout the whole state. So if you have any questions, I know that there's a time for questions, but if there's any clarification, don't hesitate to ask me. I did bring some flyers that if I need to email them out to everybody, that's kind of an advertisement that I've done on behalf of Kenton County voters. But that, happy to email that out to anybody. And again, I really appreciate the opportunity to come to speak to you all today. So my theme for elections this year are you prepared for November 5th? Okay? And why do I say that? Well, because anytime there's an election, I always hope that people take the time to be prepared by the time that they get to voting, that they are aware of what's on their ballot, any of the issues that may be present there, who they're voting for, and if they have any questions, that they're answered before they go on election day. Why? Because I can never predict how many people are going to show up, or when they show up, or what opportunity they're going to take to vote, and therefore I can't predict if there will be lines. Certain things drive more people to the polls than others. So my theme again is, are you prepared to vote? Okay, and the reason why I say that is because there's so many opportunities now with social media, and if my particular website is chock full of really good information, so I really encourage everybody to go there, because you want to know where you're going to go, what you're going to be voting on, what timing is available for you, or if somebody's out of town, things of that nature. So I kind of want to go through all of that with you. This is going to be a very long ballot. Why? Well, not only is it a presidential year, which brings more people than most to the table, you also have all your cities that are going to be on your ballots. You have all of your school boards that are going to be on your ballots. We also have a lot of other, besides the 2 constitutional amendments, you also have city questions. For instance, Park Hills has a question about taxes. There is the medical cannabis question that is on some of the city ballots, but not all of them, okay? And then there is a potential change of government question that will be on the Covington ballots. So questions often mean like, well, what exactly are they asking? What exactly that means? That's why I want people to be prepared. So if they have questions about any of those, they need to go to their cities, right, to inquire why a question would be on there, what exactly it means. But as far as the constitutional amendments, those themselves, the language takes up a lot of room on a ballot. So again, even if you're prepared, it takes people longer to read something when they're answering those questions. So I just want everybody to know all their options and what timing is available as it relates to Election Day. So again, if someone's going to be out of town, of course we have mail-in absentee ballots. That means that if someone is a student, out of town, age, disability, or illness, there's quite a list of people that would qualify for mail-in absentee. We have a portal. It's quite lovely. It's easy for people to use if they can have a computer. If not, I'll go through the dates, but starting September 21st, which is a Saturday, through October 22nd, the portal is open. That means they can go on to govote.ky.gov. They can request an absentee ballot. They'll be requesting or putting in the reason why they're requesting, the address, especially if they're a college student, what address it goes to. I recommend anybody who has a college student to really make sure that they can get something from their mail, because right now I've had more problems with poor college students requesting ballots and they don't get them because it goes to a large mail house within the facility or out the campus, so they need to be looking for it. But that being said, the portal is very easy to use. If you have someone who struggles or doesn't have a computer, then starting, of course, Monday, September the 23rd, starting at 7:30, we're on the phone. Have them call the office, 392-1620. We do identify people over the phone. We'll be verifying date of birth, the address, if they have the Kentucky driver's license. If they don't, we're going to ask a series of questions just to verify that person is who they say they are so that we can get out the proper ballot. And also, I'm really asking people to check their registrations now. Again, the govote.ky.gov has this beautiful graphic on there, very easy to use and read. I recommend everybody check their registration. Why? Because I want to make sure somebody hasn't moved. And believe it or not, apartment numbers even. They may not have moved physical addresses, but they may have moved from one apartment to another. I want to make sure things get to them. And of course, your address really dictates what ballot you're going to get, what city you're in, what school board may be on your ballot. So please check your registration. Sometimes we're finding that people, because remember, this is a human endeavor, and when we have gotten things that were handwritten, My people could have transposed something on there, somebody could have transposed. We want to make sure that our records are squeaky clean, so if you don't find yourself or you have difficulties, again, I've got people on the phone ready to talk to anybody so that have you prepared for Election Day. But mail-in isn't the only way. So after the portal closes, which is October the 22nd, the following day, which is the 23rd, October the 23rd, we have what's called a period of 6-day excuse voting. That means that if you are not going to be available on Election Day or the 3 days of no excuse early voting, then you can come into the office. Again, you're signing a legal affidavit that says, I can't be here during this time and I must vote in advance. That happens more and more. Again, college students, age, disability, or illness, there's a list of people. If you're out of town for work, a series of reasons. That is an in-person vote, so basically you're coming in, you're actually getting a ballot, it is actually then being scanned at that moment in time, okay? Just to kind of back up on the mail-in ballots, again, the mail-in ballots have barcodes on them. That means that when I scan it out to put it in the mail to you, you can see what day I put it in the mail. And when I receive it back, it is scanned back in to show receipt of when it was received. So whoever does get a mail-in ballot would be able to track what's happening from the time that it was put in the mail to when it comes back. In between, that's the U.S. Postal Service, and I don't have any control over that timing. But I can at least let you know how to track your ballot as far as that's concerned. After the 6th day is 3 days of early voting. I know everybody's got varying opinions about early voting. I just want everybody to know what their options are, and that is that if there's lines or you can't stand in line for periods of time on Election Day, I do encourage people to use that potential option. For early voting, it's 3 days. It's a Thursday, a Friday, and a Saturday. We're open 7:30 to 4. There's 6 physical locations throughout the county, okay? And during that time, we don't have pre-printed ballots. It's all ballot on demand. So we print the ballot as it's needed by that person, because we have 108 ballot faces in Kenton County. I can't have that many pre-printed ballots in too many places. It's too confusing. So those are called voting centers, and that's what allows anybody to go to any of those locations. Of course, I have that list that's on the website, but real quickly, it's the Kenton County Government Center. It is the Covington Library. We've added the Northern Kentucky Convention Center. There's free parking at the garage across the street if anybody needs to utilize that. We have the Independence Senior Center, which is really lovely. Calvary Baptist Church, okay, as well as Lakeside Christian. And of course, all my community partners, I always want to thank them for being so willing to be available during those days, because it's a lot of work for them as well as my staff, so a shout out to them. And then of course, on Monday, the day before the election, there is no voting, because we will be setting up 37 physical locations for Election Day, okay? So that being said, if you are planning to vote on Election Day, great, still be prepared. You're going to hear my sheriffs and people who are poll workers say to you, are you ready to vote? Because if you're not, we're going to ask you to say, hey, if you need to read up more on the constitutional amendments, or we're going to have those available for people. But you need to be able to get in and vote, because of course there will likely be lines. And also there's a rule, and it's been a law for a very long time, you can't really use your cell phone while you're voting, okay? So if you do need to do some research on your candidates, we're going to ask you to not get in line until you're ready to rock and roll. And so if you do have your cell phone, we're not saying turn it off, you just literally by law can't use it, because it could affect someone's privacy of the vote. And it does slow down the ability for people to get in and out of the facility as far as voting. So you'll kind of hear that. So to facilitate being prepared to vote, and again on Election Day, as far as all the list of the locations that you can have, that is also on my website. If you asked me to give you all 38 right now, I couldn't say them. But to prepare everybody, I have on my website links to the constitutional amendments so people can read them. Sample ballots are on there, okay? So you need to know what precinct you're in. Again, check your registration, print it off, because it will tell you exactly what should be on your ballot and what your precinct is, and then you can go into the sample ballots and choose. Because if you got to remember, in most cities, Some have city properties, and some have a little county property. For instance, we are currently in the Crescent Springs precinct, but right across the road here is county property. So they have two different ballot faces, one that would have the city races on it and one that does not. So people have to be aware of where they reside and what would be on their ballots. So again, if they have any questions, please call. As far as, again, Election Day, we have a really unique, I shouldn't say other people don't do this, but we have extended the ability for voting centers to Election Day. And what that means is, on Election Day, if you need to have a pre-printed ballot, you would need to go to your assigned precinct, that location that would have your specific precinct ballot. But for flexibility, as well as a really good option in case someone's running late or we have a power outage, basically you can go to any of the locations available on Election Day and still get your precinct-specific ballot, okay? Because of our ability for print on demand, which is the ballot marker. This is a paper-based system across the board, okay? You are getting a paper ballot. There's just two ways to do it. One, using the touchscreen, or the pre-printed ballots, okay? That's Election Day. So you can, and that gives people a lot of flexibility, particularly my people who work in Cincinnati. If they're flying home from Cincinnati and they can't get all the way out to Taylor Mill, they could stop at any location along the way and still get their precinct-specific ballot, okay? I have a lot of people who are flying into my office at the last minute because we have a polling location in our office, all right? So that's important to know. And I think I like that flexibility. I think it's worked well for the citizens of Kenton County. People still like to go close to home. Great. That's purely your choice. I just want to really encourage people to let people know that option. So a couple other things, and then I want to make sure that I know that we usually have questions after lunch, but I'm happy to answer them now. Again, I encourage everybody to truly go to the website and look at your sample ballots. But I did want to talk about a couple other deadlines. If you have somebody who hasn't registered to vote, that deadline's coming at October 7th. So I always tell people, go check to make sure that you're not already registered and you don't need to update it. So always check your registration first, and then if you're not, or you know somebody isn't, you've got somebody who's just turned 18, or they're 17 right now and they'll be 18 before November 5th, they can register to vote. This would be an exciting, historic opportunity for them if they want to vote in this election. So that's a really important deadline. We also, like I said, as far as other things, is when people move between counties, okay? That deadline for moving from Kenton to Boone is also very important, which is October the 7th. So if somebody moved here from Boone and they did not properly register themselves in Kenton County, okay, there is some very harsh consequences to that, and you could not technically vote in either county, right? But if you moved right after the deadline from one county to another, then you have one opportunity to go back to your old county for purposes of voting. And that is, very hard to explain to people. Chuck is on my board of elections. We are always really talking with and dealing with the voter themselves to find out what happens so that we have all the facts, and usually are really helping the voter make sure that they have an opportunity to vote. That's why in federal races, you have provisional ballots. Kentucky is not a provisional ballot kind of state where we have used them a lot, but they are something that is an excellent opportunity for people who get stuck in an area where they haven't properly taken the chance to register before the election. So again, my theme, of course, is, are you prepared to vote on November 5th? And I'm hoping that all of you will help me tell people that they need to start preparing for that. It's going to be very fast and furious. There may be lines, so they need to know how they want to vote, when they want to vote, and what they're going to vote on. Does anybody have any questions right now?
We're going to take a short break and write it down.
Okay. So I appreciate, again, I've got some really excellent questions here. Wanted to cover a couple things since this is broadcast. In the state of Kentucky, it has been a law for quite a long time that none of our voting equipment has a modem in it, okay? That is the scanner that keeps the actual paper ballots, okay? Our tabulation equipment is separate. It is not able to ever be legally attached to anything on the internet. And I just wanted people to be aware of that. If you have questions about the particular equipment that your particular county uses, I use different equipment than Boone or Campbell, then you need to call and speak to the office. But I can assure you that I do not want to go to federal prison. So therefore, I am very aware of the fact that there is no modems in our equipment. The other thing is I want to let everybody know is to really know where you're supposed to go. In Kenton County, we try not to move people around, but again, I'm using facilities that are not necessarily owned by the state or the county, so I have to get yeses every time. And we have the Department of Justice has to make sure that a lot of our facilities are ADA compliant. So I had to move a couple of facilities. All those people that have had their facilities moved, I have sent them a letter, or those who are like in Crescent Springs, Emerald Springs Clubhouse is now going to be at the firehouse, and the same with the city building. Both had some ADA issues, but not only that, the firehouse is beautiful, it's new, it meets all the requirements, and it's a large space. The Fort Wright Civic Club, unfortunately, when it was donated to the city, has a large hole in the roof. They had an engineer look, there's some black mold. I can't have somebody sitting in a facility for 12 hours with black mold and or expose anybody to that, so they've been moved to Fort Wright Elementary. And then, of course, Schoolhouse Bees, lovely place. They are such a great addition to the world. I think they're so wonderful, but we had the bees unfortunately swarm some voters during the primary, and given some of the health concerns, we did move them to Ryland Heights Elementary. Those are my 3 moves. Everybody per voter has received a letter, not just, hey, this is where you're going, but the reasons why we've moved them. And I just wanted to take that opportunity to really, again, have people check to see where they need to be. But I'm going to get to your questions. Does every voter need to prove citizenship? Technically, by law, you must be a U.S. citizen to be able to vote. When you sign anything that has to do with elections, including your voter registration card, it is a legal affidavit that can and would be used against you in the court of law. Do I sound just like the TV? Good. That could be used against you if there was to be found fraud. There is no way for me to verify that. There's nothing that has people bring to me proof of citizenship. I don't think anybody has that because your driver's license no longer proves citizenship. It's merely the ability to drive on our roads, and it's more of an identification card than it is proof of any citizenship. So in the future there may be something like that, but I'm legally obligated to take something on its face, okay? And so if I take that someone's a valid 18-year-old who is a U.S. citizen that is in the state of Kentucky, that is in my county, and I register them to vote, I have to take that on their face, and if it's proved otherwise, then I have the written evidence to use against them. So again, driver's license is merely used to prove who you are, not where you live, because people move all the time, okay? So if you didn't have a chance to get an appointment to change your driver's license, or you didn't have the money at the time to do so, your driver's license should be changed to your new address, but if it didn't, it's not proving where you live, but who you are, and it's just a convenience on election day for us to be able to find you faster in the roster, in the poll book, okay? So we use driver's license to vote because it is a photo ID, and it's the most common form of photo ID that Kentucky uses. Most people have that in their wallets, but it is not the only way for you to identify somebody to allow them to vote. It's still personal acquaintance, but you have to sign a legal affidavit that I know you and you are who you say you are. Again, a legal affidavit. The same with being able to use credit cards, Social Security cards, anything that is not a photo ID that it uses to identify them, they have to sign an affidavit as to why they don't have photo ID. Okay? So there's a lot of that backup. All of that information is provided to the grand jury, and the Commonwealth attorney and the grand jury have the ability to investigate anything that's brought to their attention. Can any illegals, immigrants vote? Again, they must be U.S. citizens. In the state of Kentucky, it's not only in our statutes, it's already in our Constitution. Okay? How do I verify that? That would be very difficult. Again, I would have to be able to have how they want me to vet them, and I don't vet voters, not like I don't vet candidates either. Okay? I'm merely there to put the process in place and preserve to make sure that everybody has that ability to go and vote, that right to vote. So I hope that answers that question. It's a little bit more complicated if I had some kind of enforcement ways. And that kind of goes to, lends itself to one of these, which is there any evidence of voter fraud locally? I, in my 13 years, have had some questionable things that I've brought to the attention of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and really it's not been fraud. And to give you examples is, one of the things that happens a lot in mail-in absentee ballots is someone struggling to write their name, and someone says, let me help you, and they sign that person's name for them, okay? And their signatures don't match, and we reach out to them and say, this doesn't look right, okay? Or I've had people write on the outside of envelopes, so they're telling on themselves, Mom and Dad forgot to sign the outside of the envelope, and I was dropping this off, so I signed it for them. Okay, so people aren't intentionally doing something. They don't realize what they're doing could cause a problem. So, you know, if you're talking about, you know, fraud, as far as that, I have not ever had a true incident. I've had people try to go like, well, what would happen if I had a house in every state in Kentucky, every county in Kentucky, and I tried to vote in every one of them? I'd be like, well, your residence is where you say that is your residence. You only get to vote once. If they did try it and were able to achieve that, then we would have that fraud and evidence of that fraud, because even though we're all different counties, that information all goes to the State Board of Election. They would see that it was in 2 places, and that would happen. They would be able to see that duplication of someone's trying to vote. Okay, so have I ever really had it? No. Do people try things? I'm sure that they do. I just think that people like to test systems to prove a point, but I have yet to, and yes, I'm ready. Am I ready for Jesus? I would like to meet him. I consider myself a Catholic and a profound faithful person, so yes, I am ready for Jesus, and I like that question. And why are there fewer voting locations than there used to be? So the reason that there are fewer voting locations is after COVID and with the ability for voting centers, having precincts don't mean equal polling locations. Precincts just a subset of data that determines your address and what you get to vote on. So if I'm in Villa Hills, I only get to vote on these things because the legislature, when they redistrict people and say, this is the House representative that you have, this is the Senate person that's your party, that's really what a precinct is. It is my way of carving out what you get to vote on, okay? And I try to do it by cities, okay? But part of the reason there's fewer locations is a lot of places say no to me. So I try to make it so that I also meet ADA requirements, have enough parking, and so that kind of naturally started to lend itself. In Villa Hills, I used to have it at Madonna Manor, and then they took down their center, all kinds of those kind of things. Also, at some point, I have a finite amount of equipment and the cost of elections, and sometimes it is difficult to find poll workers. This year, I'm actually having very good luck. I know that's one of the questions, but it's never really easy. I have a lot of people who will not be poll workers this year. They're telling me they're fearful, or they want a younger generation to step in. And then, of course, there's always the election integrity question. And I believe that one of the interesting things about Kentucky is every county is a little different in how they have elections. The state, every county gets to choose what equipment they have. And so therefore, you have, especially in Kenton County, close to 500 people that are your neighbors, your friends, who are poll workers. And they're challengers, they're challenging, they're verifying, they're watching, they're observers, they're part of the process to make sure that it is being followed the way that it should be followed, okay? And again, is it perfect? I don't know what is. Election integrity really is somewhat of a leap of faith for a lot of people. I'm in charge of that, but if people ask me questions, I'm great with questions. If they think there's something wrong, I need to know about it so I can fix it. But I feel like, and I think Chuck feels the same, that our elections here in Kenton County are really well done. My staff is excellent. I can't protect against every bad actor who may or may not try something, we could just make it really hard for them to accomplish something of that nature. So I'm very confident that our elections in Kenton County are very strong and safe and efficient. And believe me, I have plenty of people who ask me questions about this all the day, so if there's a specific question out there, please let me know. And again, that's why I kind of talk about the modems. And then right now, if anyone's interested in a poll worker, great. We have added more people than we normally do, just because we want to make sure that we're moving people along. They are paid, and they're paid for their training. We usually have for brand new people, we have a 3-hour training because one of those hours is for ADA compliance. Anybody who's already experienced, it's only a 2-hour training. And we have basically 3 jobs, the clerk being the sheriff or the judge who runs the equipment. That's an in-person training. And then on election day, they get paid for the day. It's a super long day. They need to be there at 5 a.m. and you don't get to leave until we're all good to go. And so it's kind of based on a $15 per hour base, but it's a flat fee. And then everybody gets paid once because that's actually a cost or a check that comes from fiscal court. And then the final question is the objectivity of trying to find out information about candidates or things of that nature. When a candidate is out there, it's really their job to let you know where they stand, what they want. My job is to basically say, here are the candidates. It would be very difficult, and I would need a full-time media person to track or find how to find what people are saying about themselves without it somehow not appearing that I was encouraging someone to vote for somebody over another. So I always tell people, here's the list of candidates. I recommend you either Google them or contact them. They usually have some kind of platform or way to contact them. We have their addresses or on my website, so if people wanted to write them or something, and a lot of them are already existing council people, so they know who they are. So I always say there is not aware of any specific place. I know that there have been other election agencies and groups that are trying to put something together where people have a one-stop shop to know what's on the ballot or who's on the ballot or what people stand for or what the constitutional amendments stand for. And I would just encourage people to go out there and find those. I don't put links on there. If it's something I know that's on the ballot, I put it out there. There is a link directly on the front page of my website on the constitutional amendments. Why? Because if you read them, they link to other things. It says it's going to affect this section. So now if you go through the computer, you can hit that section and read what section's being affected. I didn't write those constitutional amendments. They're never easy. They're part of a statute. So again, I encourage people to take the time because it is a lot. There's a lot of words. You don't know exactly what they mean by that. And so there are obviously groups that are supporting or objecting to it. And so you might want to call those to get some kind of feedback as to what their interpretation of those particular amendments are. I think I've covered everything. And as far as if I had any threats, I'm very cautious. I'm very protective of my staff. We get alerts on a daily basis of things to be out there looking for. We've already have new protocols in place on how we open mail because the State Board of Elections has already been targeted. And so therefore I am very cautious about who comes into my office. It's a public space, but we have locked doors and everybody is wanded. And so, and throughout the day, I know who walks in what door in my private space where my staff resides. And right now, not so much. And again, I certainly hope we don't, and everybody remains calm and takes the time to be prepared, and that we don't have too much stress to the point where people feel that's their only outlet to have their voices heard. Again, to kind of misquote Lincoln, I should say, ballots are often stronger than bullets, and I hope that people take that opportunity to use that.
Closing remarks?
That would be my closing remarks. My favorite quote ever, and I know I just messed it up, but again, I think it's a right and not just a right, but a privilege to vote. And I think that people need to utilize it and continue to utilize it, not just in the big elections, because one of my concerns always is that we will have this really high number for presidential, and then it will drop back to those low levels again up here. Your local elections have more impact on what you pay in taxes and what you do every day than your federal races, even though that is super important. I don't want to diminish that. But I also want to always encourage people to be educated, be a responsible voter, know what you've got out there, know what's going on, and we're always there for questions. So want to always encourage people to contact the office or to use the nice social media and excellent tools that have been put out there by the State Board of Elections, their county clerks, to always educate themselves and be prepared to how you want to vote in this election and what you're going to vote on. And I won't take away your notes, Chuck.
Thank you.
I almost took away all your notes.
That's all right, Gabrielle. You stand where you are.
Okay,
Thank you for the great presentation, and it's an honor to be working with you.
thank you.
We've got a little statement of optimism that you might need before this election's over, so
Okay,
put it up in your office where you can see it. Okay?
that's lovely. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your presentation.
Can we take an